because Venice is literally in a fight for its life against the sea, as it has been for hundreds of years. This place is made up of 120 separate tiny islands, and those islands are joined by over 450 bridges. But the way they're constructed is quite interesting. In 421 AD, someone had the brilliant idea of building a village on top of a swamp. Little did they know that 1600 years later, that would create a lot of headaches for the city of Venice. And it's a side of the city that you mostly don't see or think about when you visit here as a tourist, because it's a town that grabs you by the heart the moment you step off the railway station. It's not just the sights that you see, but it's the smells and the sounds that are so unique. The humidity of the ocean, smell of the salt, the sights as you walk through these incredible little laneways that open out into beautiful squares, these piazzas that have been there for hundreds of years, that are adorned with statues carved by great artists through the generations. And all this stuff is just for you. But as a tourist, the worst thing you have to fight is the river of other tourists that are going from one spot to another, or maybe having to fight for a reservation at a really good restaurant for dinner. But if you lived here, things would be very different, because some elements of life feel like they haven't changed in 1,000 years. Everything that comes into Venice comes in by boat, because it's a city that has no cars. And so everything, whether it's your refrigerator, whether it's your shopping, anything at all, comes in on a boat and gets carried to your house by somebody. But equally, anything that goes out equally has to be carried out by somebody. So all of the rubbish. Imagine if you're doing renovations and you had building waste material. All of that literally needs to be carried out by hand, put on a boat, and shipped out to the mainland. And so whilst as a tourist you have this incredible beauty all around, just views of the canals everywhere, the unique way the colours blend at different times of day, the architecture. As a local, I think life here would be quite hard, because you become desensitized to that. And all of those amazing views and everything become less important against the daily grind of having to carry your groceries up and over 100 sets of bridges just to get them home, and having to fight the tourists just to get wherever it is you need to go. You can't just do things at your own pace and your own rhythm. You're dictated by a whole lot of factors outside your control. And in fact, it's a city where so much is outside the control of the city itself, because Venice is literally in a fight for its life against the sea, as it has been for hundreds of years. This place is made up of 120 separate tiny islands, and those islands are joined by over 450 bridges. But the way they're constructed is quite interesting, because literally this was just a swamp, little islandy kind of swamp back in 400s. People have been living here since 420 AD, and so they would literally get rolls of wood and jam them into the swamp, like very close together, close. And on top of that, they would put layers and layers and layers of gravel and stone. And on top of that is where they would start to build buildings. But what happens to wood when you leave it in water for a long period of time? It starts to rot. And what happens when things rot? Well, it can collapse and it can subside. And so the problem that Venice has is that it's literally sinking into the sea. That's a problem. It's not only a problem if you lived here, but it's definitely a problem for the economy of this country, because Venice itself draws so many tourists, millions and millions of tourists every single year. And it's not something that the government or the people want to see disappear. And if you live here, you definitely don't want to see it disappear. And so there's this fight against the sea, where billions and billions of euros are being spent to try and protect city. And they've tried things like pumping out the water. But, you can imagine you've got all of those poles and gravel and everything underneath these islands, and you try to pump the water out. Well, in fact, it doesn't help, because that water is helping to hold it all up, and so it actually makes it worse. And they tried creating a special series of locks and sea gates to protect the city against the super high tides that occasionally occur and flood everything. But what happens when you have metal sitting in the ocean for a long period of time? Rust, barnacles, algae. That didn't work either. In fact, you've got a whole lot of rusting infrastructure sitting underneath the ocean now, which is completely useless. But all these elements make the city feel timeless. Whether it's from these ancient laneways, the sea, and the way that life is conducted the same way as it has been for hundreds of thousands of years. The city feels timeless. Everywhere you go, you have these reminders of that timelessness. Inside the museums, incredible portraits of people that have been forgotten by time. You've got marble busts of clergymen, popes, and city leaders going back hundreds of years, and their names aren't even written down anymore. And in fact, it's been making me feel a little bit isolated. It's been making me feel more just seeing all of those symbols of timelessness. Because what about me? For now, I haven't got any paintings made of me. I haven't got any marble bust that even if my name is forgotten, that image of me might last throughout the centuries that have come. And don't get me wrong, I know I'm going to be forgotten just like everybody else. That's okay. I'm okay with that. But there is some element of that still makes you feel mortal. It still makes you feel like life is just a breath of air and then it's gone. And so it's been making me think about a lot of different things while I've been here. The first business that I set up and ran with my wife was a really big success. It was helping students to go and have study experiences all over the world. It's something that was literally impacting so many different lives. And that was obviously making us a living, but then also making us feel good about our impact on the world, positivity that we were bringing. But COVID took that. And whilst we're working on new projects, now I'm starting to have that little bit of self-doubt that creeps up from time to time, wondering if that first one was just a fluke, and if maybe whatever we go on to next won't have the same sort of impact. Because something that I've realised, and something I've been thinking about while I'm here, is that first project, Aim Overseas, the company sending thousands of students to have these amazing life-changing experiences, that was really just round one. And I've been fortunate to be able to have a positive impact on thousands of people. But in fact, what I really want to do is to do things that impact millions of people, that create positivity in the world for millions of people. But maybe that's not the way things will work in future. Maybe whatever we go on to next doesn't create such massive positive change in the world. It's not the point anyway. The point is simply to make the most of every moment that we have. To make every moment seem timeless. Make our lives seem timeless. Hopefully to create some smile, some positivity along the way. That's what's important. But that's one.